So, Madam President, all week I've been outlining the humanitarian and security crisis at our nation's southern border. I've discussed the threats from the inflow of drugs and criminal aliens. I've shared career border security experts' strong support for physical barriers. And I've cited the empirical data that actually backs them up. But on day 20 of this partial government shutdown, a shutdown being prolonged by my Democratic colleagues' refusal to even come to the table, I thought I might try something different this morning. So I brought a visual aid. The chart behind me, right here, sums up my Democrat colleagues' past and present positions on border security. On the left, over here, you have a border fence made out of steel bollard at the U.S.-Mexico border in Nogales, Arizona. Construction on this upgraded steel slat barrier began back in 2011, at the direction, mind you, of President Obama's Department of Homeland Security. This fence over here, under President Obama, at the direction of his Department of Homeland Security. Just 5 years prior, Senator Obama joined with then Senator Hillary Clinton, the current Democratic leader, and several other Democrats when they all voted to authorize 700 miles of physical barriers under the Secure Fence Act of 2006. Now, Madam President, on the right, we have an example of a barrier like those the new Speaker of the House has recently described as immoral. Now, I would defy my colleagues to tell me what the difference is. They're exactly identical. So we went from the Obama administration, when everybody was supporting a wall that looked just like this, to the Trump administration, where now it's immoral. The kind of barrier all of a sudden the Democrats are so opposed to that they want to prolong the partial government shutdown. They'd rather do that than agree to an additional investment of approximately one-tenth of 1% of federal spending. Identical walls, exactly alike. When President Obama was there, they were for it, and President Trump's there, they're not. As I said, it's the same photograph twice, basically. I do that to underscore the point that the Trump administration is requesting funding for the same kinds of physical barriers that the Obama administration was actually proud to build, bragged about it. Fencing with spaced slats that allow visibility made with reinforced steel. They're the same kinds of barriers that Customs and Border Protection experts have told us actually produce real results. You can call them walls, you can call them fences, you can call them steel slats, but what they really are is effective. That's what they are. Call them what you will, they're effective. According to the Government Accountability Office, after the outdated fencing in Nogales was replaced by this particular steel slat structure, the Border Patrol reported a significant drop in violent encounters with illegal immigrants. Now, the Border Patrol is not on either side in this debate. They're just giving us the facts, just the facts. During the 2 years leading up to the 2011 construction, 376 assaults on Border Patrol agents were recorded in the Nogales station. In the 2 years after the bollard fence went up, the number of assaults fell to 71. That's 376 down to 71. That's a decline of 81% after the wall, or fence, or steel slats, whatever you choose to call it. We've seen big success in other sectors as well. The Trump administration reports that in 4 border sectors where physical barriers were recently built or upgraded, illegal traffic stopped by, listen to this, 90%. 90%. So, Madam President, it's a fact, physical barriers are effective, as Democratic senators used to understand perfectly well when there was a different occupant of the White House, and indeed used to say publicly. Used to say they're an essential ingredient in a balanced strategy for securing our border. That was then, and this is now. So why the tale of 2 completely Democratic parties? Why does the Speaker of the House compelled to denounce as immoral the very kinds of structures that her own party leaders recently praised as essential? Why does my Democratic colleague, the Democratic leader, feel the need to prolong this partial government shutdown to avoid getting more of the same investments he used to vote for? What's the reason for this bizarre about-face? Well, even these very Democrats are finding it difficult to invent a good excuse. On Tuesday, the distinguished House Majority Leader, Mr. Hoyer, was asked by reporters how there is any real daylight between border security construction projects that Democrats have supported in the past and the ones they're now trying to block. Here's what Majority Leader Hoyer said to those reporters. This is an honest man. I don't have an answer that I think is a really good answer. I don't have an answer that I think is a really good answer. That's the Majority Leader of the House of Representatives. Well, Madam President, the reason is there isn't a good answer. There's no credible answer to this massive flip-flop. So we all know what the real reason is. My Democratic colleagues are operating purely on political spite directed at the President of the United States. Why else would they rather have a partial government shutdown drag on for nearly 3 weeks than get more of what they used to vote for and brag about? Why else would they plug their ears and refuse to listen to the experts out on the ground who do this kind of work? Like President Obama's own former Border Patrol chief, who stated just days ago, and this is a direct quote, I cannot think, this is the Border Patrol chief under President Obama. Here's what he said. I cannot think of a legitimate argument why anyone would not support the wall as part of a multi-layered border security issue. So remember, Madam President, the proposal we're talking about today would represent 1/10 of 1% of federal spending for this year, 1,000th. So with a straight face, Democrats are trying to convince the country that the federal government simply cannot reopen, that they simply cannot negotiate with the president, because the sky would come crashing down if we invest 1,000th of federal spending in proven border security solutions. Proven border security solutions, by the way, their own party used to support, and that President Obama's Border Patrol chief and other security experts continue to support. So let's call it what it is. A flip-flop that is not based on principle or on evidence, but solely on the fact that President Trump is the occupant of the White House. So Republicans support the president's common sense requests. The experts on the ground who actually risk their own safety to secure our nation, they support it. Even the 2006 versions of President Obama, Secretary Clinton, and the Democratic leader supported it. But today's Democrats now say the same fencing and barriers that were A-OK when President Obama was in the White House are now immoral. Immoral, because President Trump is the one making the request. This, Madam President, is not how you make serious policy. Partisan tantrums are no way to govern. My Democratic colleagues need to get serious about their responsibilities, seek treatment for their brand new partisan allergy, seek some treatment for their brand new party allergy to border security. Sit down with the president, negotiate a solution that works for everyone. That, Madam President, is the only way to move the country forward.